Start it. Say how long he's gonna be here.
He said he might be a few minutes. Whose definition of a few minutes?
Oh, I think he just did that.
Did he? Oh.
It's seen through the window.
We'll wait on him.
Fine with me.
Like a percent from the. He answered like a percent. You better stay at home and try to find something else. Yeah.
We didn't do anything yet.
We waited on him.
I was just working free at the courthouse all day today.
We're looking for you.
Some break over there in the calm. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we just come before you tonight asking you to watch over this meeting of our commissioners, help them to make good decisions for our county, and be with all our citizens as they go about their lives throughout the week. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, good evening, everybody. I will make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from last week.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 On these claims, I see that we had a $1,200 termite inspection. I'd like to ask Sean what at the park. I guess we can prove them, but aren't we supposed to be spraying ourselves or?
I don't know. It's turned out a special.
I don't know, is it a special? Could be?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just going off like a real estate transaction. You have to have a special termite. I don't know. We can talk to him when he comes up.
We can talk about it when we come in. That's just a question I had with it. It's already done, I guess, but make a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $83,793.62.
I'll second. Motion been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 I did put the fire and AMR reports on your site earlier. And I do not have a report from the sheriff's office on prisoners.
Randy, you want to go ahead and come on up? Sorry, I'm trying to get this open.
Good evening, Commissioners. I sent out this week's weekly call totals. We had 3 calls, brings our yearly total up to 405. We completed pump testing for engines and tenders, anything that has over 1,000 gallon per minute pump on it, required annually by NFPA and ISO to do a test. That was completed last week on all those trucks. There's 14 trucks, all of them passed, no issues. The only other thing I have is I'd like to ask for a 10-minute non-elected personnel executive session.
Danny, and you talked last week about the inspections, and you brought it up to Randy, as far as the company that come for the inspections.
Oh, yeah.
I talked to Randy about that later, and that's like the fire. Randy says it's like the courthouse and the different areas that he's not in charge of, that we have different people actually in charge of having it inspected, right?
Yeah, so that company performs like hood suppression systems, like what they'd have in some of the senior centers, the fairgrounds, and the jail, and also they do fire alarm and sprinkler inspections. It's nothing to do with the fire department. And that's what they were offering is they're a local
And
company.
Syntox does it for us
Do
now.
they do the sprinkler?
Yeah, they do. They're a one-shop stop. They're out of Lewisburg. I dealt with them when I worked for the fire marshal's office and familiar with them from that. But that's what they were offering is they do that kind of
Who
services.
does that for us? Who's in charge of getting that done, David? As far as
It's been an ongoing deal we've had with them for a long time, so nothing's really changed on it in years.
So when we go to do the fire extinguishers thing, would that be a good time to negotiate that sprinkler system thing into it? Or?
That's something that you guys may want to look into, especially when we take the fire extinguishers over. You still have these other systems that have to be
maybe we
tested.
can look at
So,
that time to have this company come and give us
Yeah.
a bid on what we're doing, because maybe it might be the chance where we can save,
Open it up for bids.
where we can save some money on what we're doing if, once Randy gets, certified to do our fire extinguishers, maybe we can look at this other company.
Okay.
And I've worked with them since I've been in this position. They've been doing some local stuff for other,
You're talking about that company that,
yeah, out of Lewisburg. They've been real great to work with and hadn't had any issues with them. So,
certified in life safety.
So whenever we get certified to do the extinguisher, bring it to our attention again, and we'll maybe.
Okay. Do we should we appoint somebody to, speak with Cintas about this stuff? Who used to do that, David? Did Doug do that?
It really been so long since we've done anything with it. I don't know who's done it in the past.
Randy, would you want to help us head that up?
yeah, well, I can help you with that. That's no problem. I know, like Kevin for the sheriff's department, he took care of everything at the sheriff's office, and I'm not sure who was doing the fairgrounds, and I know we have some fire alarm systems like in here. I don't know who kind of heads that. Maintenance is in charge of it, or Sean. I know Chris has been kind of watching over the fire alarm systems for like the Centerville Senior Center and the health department. So between Sean, Chris, and I, we can get something.
Okay.
worked out. So,
Okay.
And you said you have their contact.
yeah, I have contacts with them.
Alright.
So that's all I have unless you guys have something.
I don't.
All right. Thank you.
Randy.
Do you have the AMR article?
See it in here.
There's a couple of copies.
Monthly ambulance report. Blue Mountain had 6 calls, 2 transports. Centerville had 9 calls, 5 transports. Lacine had 27 calls, 15 transports. Linn Valley had 16 calls, 5 transports. Mound City, 16 calls, 11 transports. Parker, 9 calls, 3 transports. Pleasanton, 28 calls, 10 transports. Prescott, 10 calls, 3 transports, for a total of 121 calls and 54 transports. We got, it's like Ron and Sean, it looks like. David, you anything right off the bat?
No.
That's a question I had on that termite, spraying of the termites at the park. What was that? Termite
Spraying of termites at the park.
at the cabins, $1,200.
It was not termites. It was bed bugs.
Okay, I just seen it.
There,
It said termites.
we had, because of an outage and because of, other obligations with the plant and renters, we had people blocked out on those. And we had to call someone out immediately because we had an incident down
It
there.
just showed on the bills for termites. Can we spray for termites?
I'm sure Johnny and Carl can spray. They're licensed to spray for most everything, but in this circumstance, it goes a little beyond spraying to get rid of those. The foreman met with Ham on the 25th, did the walkthrough of the operation and looked at the lab and their lab operations for gradations. All of the foremans were present and went through their presentation with them, and it seemed to go very well. Airport lot splits, we're waiting on Pleasanton to do a legal review of their lot split agreement, which hasn't been used in a while. And as soon as that's done, I'm being told they'll give us a call and we'll get the lot split done. Once the lot split is done, then it will be back to legal as far as developing deeds or titles for these two properties once they're split. So once we get the lot split done, I'll return the documents and wherever you direct me to go with them, because that's as far as our staff is qualified to take those. Joyce and I met with FEMA. Our next meeting is November 18th. It was a very informative about the process, the paperwork, the things that we're going to have to go through and the documents that we're going to have to provide. Also about the difference between the different types of damage. Storm damage is one thing, mitigation's another. So we're going to have to pull apart a lot of the paperwork, and it's going to be very labor intensive for Joyce to go through and pull apart what we fixed versus what we are fixing to make better for the future, such as 900 Road and the culvert system there. Yes, there was some damage from the storm, but the system itself can only go back, or FEMA can pay to put it back the way it was before the storm. We have to go through mitigation for any other funding to go through and put it back better than it was, so that the next storm, we don't have the same problem.
Who determines all that, though? I mean, who's the,
We met with a group of people, not only a FEMA rep, but several people that did mitigation, that did environmental control. I think Randy can tell you there's a host of people, and each one has a separate job. To include one gentleman's job is to help us in that filing, move those documents over to the spreadsheets into their system so that we can go through this. So it's a very labor intensive process, and it's going to be ongoing for some time. Our next meeting is the 18th with them.
but we haven't really assessed everything that could be potentially damaged from the storm. So how do we know?
We have 60 days from that meeting to finish those initial assessments and notify them of that damage. And it's further down in my line, but I'll discuss it. What we did, large map. With Pam's help in GIS, what we did is we went through and took those 2,400 plus culverts and turned it into a list of just over 300 that were 36 inches or greater. The reason why is I'll tell you, those are the tubes that don't get replaced on a more regular basis. So the larger tube systems are what we are worried about and worried about the cost of. So the foremans split those districts, have sheets to fill out, and are going through and checking those tube systems currently, trying to evaluate those and get those back to us in that timeline so that we can report any of those damages.
And that's the Excel spreadsheet that you sent out to us.
That Excel spreadsheet is the last time this project was done
Okay.
during a last flood event, and nearly all of the tubes were inspected. They didn't get some on the north end, but that was their condition and gradations at the time as far as the grade of the tube, the condition of the tube, the markers that they went through, and they did this and they developed a spreadsheet at that time, and that's similar to what we are doing in this event.
Okay.
Have those two along with those two. We're talking about the tubes and the project. I went through after last week and had Joyce run some numbers for me. Since our system was implemented, PubWorks in 18, I looked at the ditching hours because our system pulls apart projects by sections. So you can't do a number of feet, you can't do a number of projects because projects won't tell you how many miles or sections. You just got to look at the hours. And then I looked at the tubes that we have replaced in those years as well. So as you can see, in 2018, we're 389.5 hours of ditching reported with 30 tubes replaced. It increased in 19 to 650, 16, and the tubes remained about the same. Somewhere around in 2021, you had a flood event, and your ditching went to 1,190 plus hours with 47 tubes. 21 went to 1,558 and 59 tubes. 22 started to come back down on the hours of ditching at 1,409 and 43 tubes. And 23, we had 841, 75, and 42 tubes. This year so far, we're at 1,402 on the hours of ditching or labor hours, and we're at 71 tubes that we've replaced so far. This does not account for tubes for entrances, either tubes that were put in for addressing or tubes that were replaced because they were plugged and the water was running through or around a plugged tube and creating a ditch down our roadway. So some of the tubes that we put in outside of this were water mitigation and ditching. Our system just can't pull that apart at this point. We'd have to do that by hand. But I did, after our last meeting, want to give you a more accurate count of what we're doing as far as ditching and what we've done as far as tubes so far. And we are stockpiled at this point to continue out. I would not be shocked by the end of the year to see those tubes raised by another 30 plus.
What did you budget for this year? What was budgeted for?
I'm sorry?
What did we have a budget number that we plugged in for this year?
For ditching or tubes?
for tubes?
For tubes, since I've been here in at least the last 2 years, have bought 2 rounds of tubes and have had to go in to other funding such as special road and bridge funding, or our excess that would have been rolled over to help with those commodities to get those tubes replaced. So our budget numbers haven't moved for those tubes. Our rain events have caused us to have to buy more and to be more creative about how we're going to pay for those and keep our budget numbers the same. Our overall budget numbers are remaining the same. It's just where we're pulling those numbers from to get the extra supplies to replace those tubes.
So our actually cleaning ditches isn't in this. This is just replacement of the tubes and the ditches around the tubes.
I'm sorry.
So these hours are, is that what you're talking about?
Our actually ours here, this is just for the replacement of the tube and the ditches around the tubes. This isn't ditching.
No, that's ditching. That's not ditching around tubes. That's hours reported as ditching in the system. That's total hours reported as ditching in the system.
And the tubes are,
Just a number of tubes that we've replaced this year aside from entrance tubes.
not including it.
So this year 1,402 hours is all we've ditched with the 8th graders, I guess, or 7, whatever we have. It's
Correct.
just ditching.
Ditching. And I believe once the training takes hold, your notes will tell you it started today. It actually starts tomorrow. And our operators get that training. I think you'll see those numbers increase when they're allowed to go from road work to ditching more with the graders and learn more about pulling those ditches with those graders.
Okay.
But I'll report more on the training next week.
Yeah, can we pay real close attention to those numbers?
I'm sorry?
Can we pay real close attention to those numbers? I'd like to see what kind of difference this training is going to make.
I will report them bi-weekly or weekly if you'd like. I mean, weather's going to play a factor, so however you want me to put them in the report.
Monthly?
As long as we're tracking. I mean, we went through some really good time to be ditching, so I mean, if it stays dry, we got a prime opportunity to do it.
What's considered a ditching hour, though? I mean, like, just with the grader? Is that with grader only?
No. Any hours reported in the system logged under the task of ditching by any operator. So it's skid steer, grader, whatever machine that operator is using and reports as ditching hours. Because the task doesn't change, it just changes the piece of equipment that's assigned in the task.
Can we break down like the ditching, the trucking? Does this program break it down to where we can look at the number of hours we're paying for employees? And then break it out and show it to me what they do, whether it's ditching, whether it's spreading gravel?
Does it do that, Sean?
Will it do that?
Trying to think about your question and my knowledge of the system. You can ask it to break down the task and break down the hours for those tasks, so I can break down most of it. Yes, I believe you can do what I think you're asking to do. Whether it can be broken down individually or just as a total amounts reported, that's another question.
All I want to see is the total amounts reported as far as rock hauling for the year, the total amounts of ditching, total amounts of grading. I'd like to see that for the year, compare that to with the man hours we have in the workforce.
I believe it can build that spreadsheet. If not, the company that we use has designed spreadsheets for us at no cost if we've asked for it.
Okay.
So
I'd like to see that.
I'll look into that and see what we can come up with. Obviously, the courthouse steps are finished. The railing, I'd hoped would be in place. The front railing is in place at this point. The rear railing is not fully complete, but I think the section is laying there being ready to be installed. It should be completed shortly. After that, then, I'm sorry?
Okay, while we're on that topic, then you want to bring up the invoices on that.
If you've got the invoices for that, we can do those.
So we do have invoices for the concrete work and one for the railings on the front that we were gonna bring in for you guys to look over and approve.
Go ahead, Sean.
We're also going to go back and paint this railing and the old railing to match. Obviously, we've got more concrete work to do in the future on the ramp and that front set. So it makes sense that it all be one color and we head towards one theme. So all of that will at one point be primed and painted a semi-gloss black in the near future. We spoke about grader training starting tomorrow. What'll happen is they'll do a day in training. That training will be classroom training, and then they'll do a day here on a section of road. And then they'll do a day in Bourbon County with the Bourbon County graders that are going to come up and take the classroom with us. They'll do a day in Bourbon County with those graders. Field check for high-risk rural roads, 50C 524501. Met with, and this is the north half of the 1095 project. Okay. You may have gotten some documents on it. We went with the state, went through the process, and basically the field check is the stand on the ground, look at everything, make sure, quite frankly, the engineers got all their paperwork in order for the state and that they're on track and on time. We did discuss some signage, part of the program, and when the program's finished, I'm sure the engineer will be happy to come in and go over it with you. But part of the program will be bringing that overlay down to an inch in order that we don't have to do more grading work and put the curb wedge in or edge wedge in, which the cost was up too high on it, but also some signage. And they also looked at signage for flood mitigation and control to keep people out of the flood waters down there as well. But once that's completed and we have a finished final product ready to go and to let, I'll ask the engineer to come in and explain all of that to you in that process. 900 Road, the delivery began on the tubes today. That process is a 2-day process. They're bringing more tubes tomorrow. We have a tree that had to be removed from the northeast corner. At first, we believed it was best to contract it given the size, but Jesse was able, with the help of the other foremans and crew, they were able to get that out of the way today and get that first tube set in. The second will be here, the second load of tubes will be here tomorrow. That's 2 shipments each. Todd talked to the company in order that we get them and band them properly. They had a $300 add-on to the cost if we wanted them to separate or cut the tube so that we could band it and not have to cut it in the hole. For the accuracy of this and the job, I very much agreed that, yes, we should have it cut before it was delivered. That way, it's going to band together a lot better, and we're going to get this put in a lot better time and more accurately, and the seal's going to be better on the banding.
Is there 4 total? Is that,
There was 4 total.
there's 2 out there above ground right now.
Yes. There's 4 total. When the project was originally bid, there were 4 total that were bid for 4 complete 30-foot sections to go in. Now, as we looked at the right-of-ways and the engineering and everything that was in the way after the project was let and bid as far as the piping, we determined we can cut pipe number 3, let's say, in half, band it together and stay within the right-of-way, and we will still have one section of that 11-foot tube that will, the map that I showed you, that will go in another location. We will use less material and still stay in our right-of-way on this project and have material to use elsewhere. Trees, one of those was on 900. Jesse was able to mitigate that. We've got one on Ungenhauer that we spoke about in the past, and I've showed you photos in the past. It's split. It's hollowed out, and it's tall enough to get into electrical lines. I've got a bid on it and stump removal for the courthouse lawn to get rid of the 2 stumps that are out there.
Will the utility not take care of it if it could get into their lines?
This is across the road from the utility. My concern, it's south of that bridge on Ungenhauer on the west side of the road. My concern is the possibility of it getting in the utility, but I believe it's far enough out of the way that they're not going to get involved. The second biggest thing that makes it a problem for our operators is this is a huge tree and you can walk inside of it. I can't guarantee what's going to happen as far as when they start cutting into it or splitting. We're paying simply to lay it on the ground, and we'll take care of it afterwards. But I do not think we have the equipment or the people qualified to lay it on the ground without damage or injury to people. And then again, they're bidding the stumps at the courthouse as well. Next item I had was QuickCom and their notice and asking what you wanted me to do with that, whether you wanted me to just hand that over to go to legal or where to direct that request to.
That was for them to get their last 10%.
Yeah, that was their 90% completion request.
Have you heard back from them this week? That was last week, right? Yeah.
I have not heard from anyone this week on that.
Well, they haven't done anything that we've asked for them since they came in for that meeting, right?
We were pretty much told, as my recollection of that meeting, when we asked for the similar as we did the Evergy project, we asked for a mapping and a list of everything that did not fit our burial standards. And we were told everything fit it. If we had areas of concern, we could identify those.
We've
And
not signed off on the completion of their work, right?
no,
Balls in our court, isn't it?
I think so.
I agree.
That's how that works. I imagine it probably needs to go to legal sooner than later, though.
it'll either need to go to legal to send them a letter directing them as to what you want in order for them to complete that and get that, or I would have to think it's going to be legal. I was going to say, or you could direct me to send them a letter, but you're going to ask them for things that involve your contractual obligations with them. It probably should be a letter from legal telling them exactly what you want from them in order to complete this project.
Go ahead. You go ahead. You got more?
That was all I had on that. All I needed was direction and who to send it to and what you wanted from them.
Well, we don't have any legal right now, so I guess we'll just say anything. We'll,
Can we get Burton to send them something?
and we probably could if we asked him. Yeah, I'd assume he probably wouldn't mind. We could ask him. Would you want to speak with Burton, or do you want me to, or one of you guys want to, or see what he says?
I'll call him.
Draft a letter or something.
Okay.
I'll call him and talk to him.
That'll work.
The next thing I had was the Hell's Bin inspection. This is the annual, and you're going to see that I shipped it out to you. The new terminology is non-redundant steel tension member report, which replaces critical fracture bridges. That is the new terminology for critical fracture bridges, non-redundant steel tension member. The bridge report, I didn't see anything glaring in what the report was from the year before, and it's scheduled and on track for replacement. I just needed to report that that report did come in and we received it.
When are they anticipating start date on that?
I believe I reported that to you already, but I can't tell you the start date, but the finish is next fall at the latest.
Should we, I mean, surely whoever's in charge of that project, they got that report too, or do we need to send that to anybody, or are we free and clear, or what do we need to do?
I can check with the engineers that designed that and see if they want a copy of that report or if it makes a difference to them, but it basically completes our state requirement as the last inspection for that bridge prior to the rebuild. You got cost summaries by locations, updates on tubes and ditching, service request from 1/1/24 to 9/26/24, 446 received, 32 still open. Service requests this week, 9/23 to 9/26, 2 received, 1 still open. South Shop, Casey is setting the signs for arts and crafts. We have moved our excavator to the 900 road and Waddles due to mechanical issues with the large excavator. As you remember, we put some money into the large excavator on a pump system, and currently Daniel is working with the company because that new pump system failed, and he is going through the warranty process with them and troubleshooting that.
Didn't they just use it out there today? I saw them loading it.
They had it out there today. I don't know whether Daniel got it troubleshooted since this report.
I got you. Okay.
And or parts were sent to us. I know he was working with them so that they could warranty whatever went wrong, whether it was simple or complex, I can't answer, but yes, you're right. That X was out there today on the trailer. RE210 dump truck had suspension issue repairs, back to full service. 311 dump truck hydraulic leak fixed and back in service. 321 cat grader is still being diagnosed for smoke and under power issues. We have some difficulties connecting the diagnostic computer to this grader, but believe it's been resolved, and still haven't been able to pinpoint the issue. I approved that today after listening to the foreman and the mechanic who have been doing the diagnostic and working with CAT on this to replace the turbo on this system. If this turbo does not repair that smoke issue, then we're going to have to pay to put it in the shop. But by the time we paid for the turbo, the diagnostics we would have paid for the shop would have been nearly the cost of the turbo. So I believe since they were on spot with their diagnostics, it was better to replace something that had not been replaced on that machine yet. See if it made the repair. If it didn't, then go for the cost of the hours on the CAD operator looking at it. 2018.1 John Deere grader had cooling fan motor go out, ordered the fan part, but John Deere sent the wrong motor. We will not have the correct motor until Monday. Receive rebuild kits for lift cylinders for 316 and 213, 963 track loader and our wheel loader respectively. And we'll start those repairs once we have time. North shop, due to rain and wind, they spent their time cleaning trees and fixing minor road issues. Road grading continued all week. Also mowed 4 out of 5 days. This is due to the mower guy being gone one of those days. We worked on sewer lagoons at the lake, and now have the center cell done. Water will be pumped out of cell 1, allowed to dry, and then they'll begin lining that cell. And I think you have pictures of that project. I've went up and personally looked at the project that Jesse's crew's doing, and they're doing some amazing work on that project as far as reshaping those cell walls and then rip wrapping that project back in. And the center cell walls, or what you might consider a dam between the cells, have been resupported from years of degrading and not only being driven on, but animals as well. Landtail project's moving along. They've started phase 2. Pleasanton is ditching, grading tubes, and prep work on the 900 road project has turned into operations on the 900 road project. On the 27th, Al and I had a Teams meeting with Randy from Call Valley in reference to the tipping floor project. This meeting centered around operational issues, not design, necessarily changing the design of things, but him trying to finalize some operational issues so that he could make sure the design that he had presented would work. One was locating the main water meter where it came into the facility, which I sent photos today on. 2 was coordinating him with Tony Malini, who is doing our cell expansion project, to make sure that he does not go out of the boundaries with the turn in his road. And we get into having to tear up an old cell, repack it, re-permit it, and make a road out of it. So I'm getting the two together to make sure that we're not overlapping the two projects. The last was one of the other projects was moving your oil containment system out of the way, because as it stands, the oil containment system for the used oil that we collect is in the turning radius and will have to be moved. It's basically a concrete bunker that's a secondary required to catch any fuel spillage. And the last was the opening of the doorway and the height of the doorway on the tipping floor to make sure that we were able to take open top roll-offs without catching the doorway by going out onto the apron. I believe we worked out all of those, and after those designs and things are integrated into that project, I expect him to get with us, show it to us, have another Teams meeting and say, are we ready to come back to you and tell you we've got a product that might be ready or close to let. We've already done a lagoon update. TVs are up in the cabins. Programming comes next. No noxious weed report.
What do you mean programming comes next?
The programming on the TVs have to be programmed similar to hotel TVs so that when a guest logs into them, that their information doesn't stay and the next guest be able to use their accounts that were on that TV. Should you put a credit card in? Should you put your YouTube account up or bring up anything? It has to be from the marina or by the cleaning staff, be able to readily be set back to zero like a hotel, so that those accounts are not maintained on those TVs.
So how long is that going to take?
I cannot answer that. It's a technical question, but I don't believe programming is going to be that long of an issue. I couldn't believe it's going to be that long of an issue.
Talk about the reservation. It shouldn't be that long of an issue either, but it is.
The reservation, we're working on the measurements and the things needed to build the background for that, which is lengthening out that process. But I believe if we don't get that process done, what we'll have is we'll have campers show up. They'll have ordered a spot that was not properly measured. They'll get in and their slide outs won't work, or their camper will be too long. And then we're going to have call outs in the middle of the night because they're going to have to change spots. So the back end of that is kind of important that we get it
So
in there.
what are we thinking, how long that's going to take to do all that?
I'll have to check with Sherry, and I will report back next week on the progress of measuring those sites. But basically, you're wheel taping each one of those sites and putting it in a map and sending it off to the company so they can build the profile and the computerized rental on those sites. But I will get that information and get it to you next week. Pleasanton, I had a request from Pleasanton. One of their compactor buildings is starting to show wear on the siding and pretty severe. My understanding, Pleasanton, and this is a historical thing that I'm barely aware of. There's two buildings, unlike every other site. There's two buildings at Pleasanton, one where the machine sets and one where the controller's set, so that the operator doesn't have to be in the same building with the controller, the hydraulic system that makes all the noise. So this was something where we built one, set it like we did every other, and at some point,
I thought Pleasanton bought that.
the second building was put in by Pleasanton. I just can't tell you which building of the two we put in or they put in. Historically, I don't have that information. So I'm looking into it, but keeping you abreast that if that's the building we built, or that it was our building, then I'm going to have to look at the siding and put up some smartboard and refit the outside of it. If it's their building, then I'll notify them that it was their building to maintain.
Why do the controls need to be inside the building? I mean, I don't think they are here down in Mound City, are they?
Everything is, Mound City's like every other one. You've got the control in the building, but I believe what you're talking about is when the systems all came out, there's a remote access where originally they could push it from outdoors as well.
His Mound City only has the one building, and that's where their operator sits anyway. Why do we have two at Pleasanton?
They wanted to separate the hydraulics and the noise from the control room or the operator set. So at some point in the past,
Anyway, I think they should be helping people dump their trash if we're in control of it, but they don't. They just sit there and push a button. I mean, I don't agree with the way they do it. So this is where I think that the contracts need to be done, and we're going to get ate alive now because of
well, I sent out your request for information last week after the meeting for the information from all the cities to bring back to you before the meeting scheduled. So that's already been done. But again, this is one of those projects that predates me, so I can't tell you which building is which, and I'm going to have to look into it. We've got a group coming in to the courthouse associated with the museum curators throughout the state. Could be 50 plus people, and it is tied to the Gordon Parks Museum and the film that was filmed here at our courthouse. They want to walk through and do a viewing of either a video or a slideshow upstairs in the old courtroom. We've been able to move a lot of the stuff after the second floor was vacated, but there was a request to paint the gazebo. We already have roofing damage to it, and it is one of those projects that has been put out to bid to be roofed through the insurance that we got for the hail damage. But by looking at it and assessing the request to go paint it, the pillars and the railing have rotted to a large degree, and the pillars are not one piece. They are sectional, curved tongue and groove, 3-foot pieces with a center iron rod going up as a support or a hurricane strap through the center of that tube. As far as the historical nature and the background and the importance of this to that event, all I can say to you is you may get requests about that, or you may have someone talk to you about that. Based on the damage that I have seen, and Randy's assessed it and doesn't know where to source that material. He's talking to a gentleman that also built or rebuilt the gazebo for Mound City, trying to do what he can to help me out with that project and look into options. The answer is this project is not going to be done before that event. It just won't be. If we pulled the trigger and did something, it would be either not cost effective or would not maintain the original value of that object or gazebo, because we would just be putting scabs in there to get it ready for an event that we can't get it ready for fast enough without making good, solid decisions on it. So the reason you're being informed about that is simply we will do what we can about keeping the pieces that have fallen off of it tacked back up, and I'll make sure that it's in stable condition for the event, but it will not be refinished and then we'll have to discuss when the roofing contracts come in, whether or not you want to put the roof on it before you put the money into to repair the bottom half of it.
Well, you and I looked at today. I think it's very important that we probably hold off on the roof and fix the structure first before we put any more weight on top of it.
That would
Took
make
me over and
sense.
look at it too, and I agree with that.
I did a project at West Armor Apartments up on Main Street in Kansas City, Missouri, and we did the same type of pillars, and they make a 2-piece, like carbon fiber or something that piece together. It's not it's a pretty expensive route, but that's the only thing I know what to do out there.
You'd about think the steel's all it's holding, not right?
Yeah, and it's like
The
3/4
rod
of
that's
an
in it,
inch.
isn't it? When you look
Right.
at it,
Concrete's
that's all
good.
it's holding it now.
Right.
No.
Well, I mean, the wood wasn't meant to hold anything. That was all good to
Exactly.
go.
Never was to begin with, so then it's gone, so.
I'll ask Randy what he came up with and then report back to you. But again, because of the event and the significance of people from around the state coming here, it was a reasonable request to try to get paint and volunteers to get that.
When are they coming?
I believe we're less than 30 days out on it.
Coming in November.
Yes. But I don't have the date in front of me, but
It could use a good washing. My son had his hands on it and he wiped his face and black marks all over his face. So
I will see what we can do about making it at least presentable and safe. But the fact of the matter is there's no way to make decisions on this before that event and to get it in any reconstructed position before then. Make sure I've got everything that I've gone through for you.
I have a few questions for you, Sean. So you said the foremans met with the ham on the 25th. What was the conclusion of that? What's going on? What's our next step? I mean, what are they?
They basically learned a lot about the materials and the fines that were in it, how it's graded, and what type of rock and materials go together to make each gradation, and how the lab operates and how often they test. But because of other operations, I've got to talk to them. Most of them saw value in going there and learning about the operations, but I haven't been able to talk in depth about everything that they learned and did while they were there.
And you said something about our John Deere grader turbo or the cat grader with the turbo. Is that something where that thing's been down quite a while, hasn't it?
No.
It hasn't?
Most recently, we put an injector on it, put it back out on the road, and then I got a call from Commissioner Johnson that he was following it, and it was heading back to the shop because it had fallen down into a limp mode, and it was smoking extremely. And then they had problems replicating that while they were trying to put it on the diagnostic system. So it was a periodic problem. That's why they believe it's the turbo system with it.
So is that a long-term fix? I mean, is that going to take a long time to fix? Should we look into?
We should have parts and ready, and I should have an answer by next week. A turbo shouldn't take long to get or put in.
Pulling tractor when it was going downhill.
But it shouldn't take long to know whether or not we need to take the next step with it. But I can't answer that until they get the turbo in and get it put on. But I don't believe this is going to be something we've got to wait a month on the parts. And in my understanding, I'm going to have some answers on it next week. Oh,
So it's not, you don't think it's beneficial to look into a short-term rental on a grader or anything from Foley or anything like that to keep going?
I don't think at this point I would, especially with the projects we've got laid in and the evaluations of the tubes and things. I don't know that I would do that, but I will check with the foremans and make sure that I'm correct.
Anything to have an extra leased grader around so when one breaks, or we can have it doing ditches while everything else is up running? Or, I mean, do you guys think that makes sense or no?
Have an operator.
Would we have an operator to do something like that? I mean, if we had one go down, we could put it into the fleet, but if we weren't using it, you know, in the fleet, do a little short-term lease on it and have it clean out ditches if we have an operator for it, if it's cheap enough. Would that not go towards that FEMA money? Could we not?
My
A
understanding,
little bit of
it would not. Because it'd have to be to a project, not to a overall
that? Right,
benefit of the county. It'd have to go to a project.
I don't have a problem with us leasing one if we're going to be down for a long time, but
Seems like, I mean, do we usually have an issue with one of them probably once a week usually? I mean,
we're on there a lot.
do you think we should have one?
We have quite a few mechanical issues, but we also have dated equipment. I don't know whether a lease or a lease purchase, or whether we look at the special equipment money and look at trading out some of those units and getting them under warranty. Getting newer units and getting them under warranty. That would be something that we'd have to talk to the foremans about, and then look at what we have for special equipment money and decide which route's going to be the most financially beneficial. But most of the equipment, you're right, is not under a warranty.
I mean, is there a way that we could call a leasing or like, you know, Foley or Caterpillar or something and try to see what it would cost us to rent one? I don't know, till the end of the year. At least one for the end of the year. To see what it'd cost.
Yeah, monthly lease, see what the monthly lease is on it.
See if it'd be beneficial to having it. I mean, it ain't gonna ever hurt anything to have it. I mean, if we have an operator, we could be putting put it in the fleet and put one of the ones that isn't running as good on the ditch.
I can look into that. My only concern is what the lease would cost and how to follow our purchase policy or lease policy on it. But the short answer is yes, it's doable. I just don't know until I sit down and look at the numbers and the policy, how to get there or what path to get there. Whether I'd have to contact 3 vendors and get 3 different ones, or I'd do one, or I just don't.
Curious about a number for, month to month or whatever.
Oh, we didn't have to do anything on our leases of our tractor. We just leased one tractor and went, so I don't know what would be the difference. I mean,
The cost.
cost would be more.
Yeah.
Probably not if you leased it just monthly. I mean, over the year it will be, yes,
Okay.
but the monthly lease won't be.
Yeah, the cost threshold is what makes the difference. Commissioners, I need 5 minutes non-elected personnel in one aspect and 5 minutes non-elected personnel in another, so a total of 10 minutes of non-elected personnel for executive session. These are the hard copy documents that we'll be discussing with her.
Okay.
I have all those electronically.
Is that what you sent me in the email, Sean? Is
I'm sorry?
that what you sent me in the email? Is that what you sent me in the email earlier this week or last week? Or
I would have to check. I've sent so many. It may have gone out in a packet. I believe it did go out in one of the packets, part of that, but that also has the burial permits and the contractual stuff behind it, the things that he may have questions on to
He can
answer.
come get them from you too if he needs them anyway. You got them, right? I mean, you can send them.
I can do all that.
Okay.
But those things he may have questions to answer your questions with.
Okay.
Okay, we'll discuss. We got Ryan Walker Flatwork, 2 invoices for the courthouse steps. That's one for the front steps equaling 5,000, and one for the back steps tear out and replace for 7,000 for a total of 12.
We already approved that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got a invoice from JRK Portable Welding for installation new handrails on the north side of the courthouse where Walker's poured new steps. Bid is for the center rail and railings on each side built to code for 5,000. And that's a step up from what we used to have. We just had the one single center rail, so he'd put 2 on each side. That looks really nice, and that's what
Sure
we're
does.
going to be painting. So
So do you need a motion to approve?
Just with the size of those invoices, I think it'd be good to have it in the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice from JRK Portable Welding for 5,000, and then a invoice from Ryan Walker Flatwork for a total of 12,000 for the repairs on the courthouse steps and railings.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll go ahead and open it up right now for public comment. You guys good with it? So we'll open up for public comment. A citizen desired to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so at this time. We'll limit it to 5 minutes. We do not have to take action on it at this time. So if you have any public comment, come up and state your name and your comment.
Anybody want to go? I'll go.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Brenda Connor from Centerville, and I have a few things that I'd like to discuss with you. First one is I would like a sign put put up on 1077 that has it has a school bus on it with the lights flashing. I had a semi run through my stop sign the other evening, and my 2 kids was standing right at the edge of my bus getting ready to cross. Now, and the county sheriff said that there wasn't any signs up there and that it would help if there was signs there so they could see, because it is on a curve and everything. It's on 1077, just north of 1600 Road.
It's on a curve.
That's something probably get with Sean and meet with him and discuss it. And
Okay, that was one of the things. So, and the other thing is striping on the road. I got caught the other night coming home in that storm, and you could not see anything. And the wind was blowing so hard and everything. I thought it was going to tip the bus over. And I've been doing this for 44 years, and I've never been as scared as what I was. But when it finally lightninged and everything enough that I could see, I was sitting sideways in the middle of the road. But I couldn't tell where the road was because there's nothing there. They need to be striped. I came down here 2 or 3 years ago and asked for that, and there was another man here at the same time and asked for the striping to be put in somewhere down south and everything. You said something about the chip and seal, that the paint wouldn't stick to it and everything.
Well, that's what we get told as far as that. And I don't know, I guess we need to get Sean back in there and talk about that too, is what their reasoning is on the.
Well, I talked to someone from Miami County, and they said that they use stripe line or something like that, and they paint theirs. That's
Put it right on the chip and seal. That was brought up to us 2 or 3 years ago, and we also had an individual from the south end of the county talk about the same issue.
Yes, I think we were both here at the same time and talked about it. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about.
where was that on 1077? Because you said 1077, right? The striping?
The striping? Yeah, I mean, there's nothing.
I don't go over there very often.
1077 and stripe, wherever we chip and sealed it, we didn't.
Yeah, and there is places in the middle where you didn't lap together and you can see a little faint yellow, but you got to have something. It's dark out there in those, the fog line or something where you can see where you're at. That was there was a man that has a new weather station, and he said that it was the wind was 62 miles an hour, and there's a Milo field not very far from it, and it's all flat, and it flattened it. But I can't understand how come it doesn't get done. The other thing I have is that I called Joyce and said that there was places on my route that needed to have trees trimmed and needed to have the weeds cut and everything. And I gave her the description, and I done that on August the 23rd. And I called her again on August the 27th. And it's still not done. On the one road, I have hit the tree limbs so much with my mirrors on my bus that I've knocked all the limbs off, and now all it is twigs hanging down there. The road grader he's bladed the road. He's had to take and run into those trees the same as I do.
And I had talked to Sean about this. I think Joyce had just went on vacation after that, and then she came back, was on the FEMA.
Well,
I'm not making excuses, but I think that's probably what happened. Sean, I could be wrong. Is that right?
There was a week that she was gone for vacation where Darren and I didn't go that and stuff. But I also believe one of those issues I was told was where I think we spoke. Part of the roadway was mowed towards the fence, but not towards the road itself. And it was a mower breakdown halfway through the mowing of that roadway. We had a mower breakdown.
Yeah, I think this kind of all connects. I talked to her about that in the past. Yeah.
But this is up, going out of Goodrich, and it's on Devlin Road, going north on Devlin, outside of Goodrich. And on the west side of the road, there's this big vine-like thing that hangs down, and then there's a tree that hangs out there. And there's just a big section that there's just trees there, and they all need to be trimmed back and everything. And I don't understand how come it's not getting done. And then down at Centerville, okay, so tonight I noticed a lot, when I came out of Parker, it's been mowed on both sides of the road, from the road clear up to the fences, both sides. It looks fantastic. You go past 1700, there's weeds standing at the edge of the road, yay high. And then when you go out of Centerville going towards Booth City, he mowed one swipe up against the fence on both sides of the road, and then he left everything. I bagged an 8-point deer the other morning with my bus in that fog. And it's ridiculous. I don't understand how come up there can get it done, but we can't get it down there. And it's like that on every road down there.
She asked about a bus sign too, north of 1600 road on 1077. She had a truck go past her school bus stop signs and went past with 2 kids. Can we put signs up there on those curves for bus stops?
Warning.
Stop.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe as long as you make a resolution plan a sign, we can put them anywhere that you authorize. David would have to correct me, but I believe control signs have to be a resolution.
I'd have to review that to make sure, but that sounds right to me.
I believe control signs would have to have a resolution, but
Can you look into that? And you guys good with that, putting them up on that road right there on the curves?
I am.
Can you look into that and get that, let's get that done, and if it takes a resolution next week, we'll get them.
I'll have to go out at some point with you or take an action and mark those so that I can get locations for that, so I can put a document.
Okay, no problem. I have one more thing. 3
Just a
years.
minute here, Brenda, he talked about the chip and seal roads, why, on the marking of the lines, why did we quit doing that? I mean, did we never do it, or, do you know? I mean, we've quit putting,
I thought we did it once.
huh,
I think we only did it once.
and quit?
I don't think we've ever striped beyond that.
We got a
Have we?
special road and bridge
And
fund.
I'm basing that just off of living here, not.
That's kind of what I think, and I just don't know why, because I think other places do it.
Wasn't an issue with the oil or something? Isn't that what?
We had chips issue on that side, but we haven't
Up
done it.
around the Centerville and the Bush
We haven't
City.
done it anywhere.
No, we haven't done it. I mean,
All right. What's your own mind?
It's my understanding, chip and seal does not require striping. It is optional as opposed to the asphalt, which is dark black and requires by the standards that I've been given, requires the striping to it. Since I've been here, I believe 1100 or Snow Hill Road is the one that we chip and sealed, and striping was required or requested, fog lines be applied to it. But chip and seal, as far as striping, that is something that if it is deemed necessary by yourselves or required because of the high travel volume, it's paintable. Obviously, chips will eventually break away and the paint will break away with it faster than asphalt. But the paint that we use is a minimal 3 to 5 year paint. It is not heavy reflective polymer. It is not the expensive paint
How
system.
often do we chip and seal and overlay? I mean, what's our procedure on that?
Every 10 years.
On overlay, right?
Yeah.
What's chip and seal?
If you've got 200 miles of hard surface, and when I first got here, we were able to do 25 or close to. Now you're down to 20 miles because of cost of oil and other things. So
So
every
chip and
year,
sealing
20 miles.
10 years. We're chip and sealing Every mile, every 10 years.
every 10 years. And then the overlay, what are we doing? What is it?
The overlay.
Overlay is 5.5 miles a year of those
Of the
200, and then the rest is patch and crack seal.
We have a special equipment fund. I don't know, or a special road and bridge fund. I don't see why we couldn't.
Miami County does it. Because I went and talked to them up there about it and everything. But the thing is, there needs to be either a fog line or something where you can see where you're at in the dark and everything. And when it's storming like it has been. And
What if we put the center line on it? And then
anything would
put the
help.
outside lines. I mean, and we could try it that way. At least get us one line on it, to get our pass lanes. And then
I think that's going to be the one that's going to stay the best.
I do too.
I think you'll see the deterioration of the road on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Won't you? I mean, that's
do.
what I feel like from
Try it.
driving on them.
Can we not try it and see what happens? Because I mean, I know it's
If you drive out of Centerville and going up towards Parker, there's 2 or 3 spaces that you can see about this much yellow, a line and a light of yellow. It's so pale and you got to really watch, but you can see it. But there needs to be something.
Can you, Sean, if you guys are good with this, let's look and see how many miles we got that is unmarked,
We need striped,
needs striped, and let's see what it takes to put the center line,
just the center line.
just the center line. And I mean, the passing lanes, we can get it set up to where we got the, market,
The correct.
the correct.
There's just as something to give you an idea. We paid a bill in August for 5.5 miles on County Road 554. Now that I think was center and sides. That was $9,900.
I know it was for both of them, all of them.
That's not bad. Don't seem bad.
5 miles.
5.5 miles is what it says in here.
We have 200.
We get a used paint truck.
My recommendation, commissioners, would be that
6,800.
you ask me to get a price per mile for center line and then talk to Todd about what's going to be redone, because you wouldn't want to paint a center line over something that's planned to be chip and sealed in the next
Next year.
year.
Right.
But like what we did at Centerville and the
But
things
if
that
we had a price per mile and then had a talk with Todd and mapped out which miles you would like to do, it would be more cost effective and more
On the passing
less
zone
waste.
stuff, do we have signs marking passing zones on our county paved roads?
signs.
Yeah. How are we gonna?
Well, I mean, the lines are, I don't even know, are they marked or is it a solid?
Well, like on the state, they're
Do we
gonna
just have a
be,
solid yellow line down the middle of it? Is that what we got now?
I think so.
Well, maybe that's it then. I don't know. I guess I drive that every day and I don't pay any attention.
I'm not sure
Neither.
because I don't. Yeah.
Does anybody know how it is?
Like on 1077 going up to Beagle, that's another road that's striped, right? Does it have, no, it's not. It's chip and seal only now again too. No striping. Okay.
Is it solid? Is it solid in Miami County or what do they have as the center?
I think it's striped. Is what I'm thinking, but it is striped, and it's a center line. It's yellow, bright yellow.
You'll find that the striping company will follow the Mudco standards as they make passing lanes.
Make passing lanes.
They will. Okay.
They will follow the standard. Now, as to whether or not.
That's what I thought it was, but I couldn't swear.
Those on the county road. The majority of the county roads have those passing lane signs.
No passing lane signs. I know they don't have those, but I'm just saying if they mark it that way.
Yes, it is marked.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a solid center line, and when it's passed, it's striped.
Right.
Okay.
On one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we go ahead and try to figure this out. I know a gentleman came in, a year ago? And probably not
2
long.
years ago when we was down here.
We've had two people come in and talk about it. Her and one other.
Go ahead. You got more, Brenda?
I got one more thing. I came down here 3 years ago and asked about the two bridges on 1700 that they are so rough when you cross. And Sean went out and looked at it. He came back and he told you that there was an animal that had dug in underneath it and that they was going to have to take and do some work on it to take in and to fix it. I went and talked to him in his office and he told me that they was going to have to pull the road back and fix it and then put it back, and that they would do it over, they'd have to close the road. And since the buses use that road, that they would do it over spring break. But he didn't tell me what year. And it still ain't fixed. And now there's another one that I have to cross, and it is west of Goodrich. And they came out and fixed put the black stuff in the center of the big pothole that was at the edge of the bridge. But you can see that the road dips down and then comes up on the bridge. And when you go over it, you bang good. And it's the same way on the other side when you go off. All that they would do, they done that over at Centerville, the one that I complained about that, they took that coal pack and they ran it across there and patched it, and it's just smooth as all get out. Why can't they do that? It's been 3 years.
Whenever you call in, do you talk to Joyce, or does anybody do a work order for you?
Joyce, I call Joyce. She sent me, because I got a place in Goodrich that I cannot see. It's at Washington. Washington is when you cross the railroad tracks in Goodrich. Washington Street goes this way. The first crossroad is Main Street. And I come up there and I took pictures, and I think I sent them to you. Or no, I didn't. I sent you the ones of the other. But I've got pictures, and the weeds are as high as the mirrors on my bus and everything. And I can't see. But for I to see, I have to pull clear out. And then the front of me is out in the road. And I told her and everything, and she said, I don't know that I know where you're talking about. She says, I'm going to take a picture of my map and I'm going to send it to you. And I gave her my email and everything. She sent it to me, but I can't get it opened. So then I drawed a picture to tell her, but then when I went to send it back, it said that I was blocked and I couldn't get it sent back to her. And so, and I haven't had time between school and everything else that's going on. I haven't had time to call her back and tell her, but I thought that you had made a statement that if you called in and asked about something, that when they fixed it, they needed to call you and tell you and see if it was where you was talking about. I never get a phone call from anybody. And I call if she knows when I call, she'll even say my name before I even get a chance to tell her who I am.
Sean, did we not buy the tool to fix them bridges? Didn't we buy a used, what was that?
Planer
Planer to plane that off, and we bought it
at auction.
at an auction just for that specific jobs.
We bought a coal planer, yes.
We did for these jobs that we talked about, and we bought it to do that, and then we haven't done it, I guess, is.
I know Todd has addressed several of these, but I'm gonna have to look at the tickets to tell you what he did.
Okay.
I can't off the top of my head without pulling those tickets. And I don't have
So
access to
when somebody calls in with a work order, do we give out like confirmation, like is it a work order number that we can give them so they know that there's a work order done? So that there's accountability for this? Because I mean, I don't, she's more than welcome to call me. She does, we talk, but I don't want her thinking that I'm just letting it go in one ear and out the other. Whenever I have talked to you, I think we should be giving them like a work order number saying, hey, yeah, it's work order number so-and-so. So if you call back, we can say, she can tell us, yeah, it's work order this number, and we can look at it and tell her, yes, we've talked about it, no, we forgot about it, or whatever the case may
each
be.
work order develops in a.
Can we start giving that to people that put
When
that
they
in?
call in with a trouble ticket.
Just because she talked to somebody she don't know she actually got the work order, submitted or not. You know what I mean?
If we give the landowner the work order number, then they call in 3 weeks later and ask, say, has this work order been done? And we can look and see.
Pull the notes up.
Pull the notes off, just off the work order.
I can talk to Joyce about that, and make sure that each individual work order number is given out. I'm gonna have to. We also, we're talking about when she's not here, call
myself or Darren did take those, so
But if you
I'm gonna
have
tell you, Joyce will do a diligent job of that, but we also take those in several different ways, shape, or form. And I don't know how that'll affect the ones that they are generated. I think when they come in.
No, I see what you're saying, but like if she called Joyce and talked to Joyce about it, then Joyce couldn't get something open, and then she calls back 2 weeks later and says, it's work order number blah blah blah. Joyce can say, oh yeah, I tried to get a hold of you, but I couldn't get it open. And I mean, there's that communication, and she knows that it's actually being addressed.
So Joyce is the only one that puts work orders in, is what you're saying? I mean, is that? So why should it not, whether you put one in, why should the program not, you put one in today and then Joyce puts in tomorrow, it ought to just automatically go to the next work order number? Should it not? Okay, so.
What I'm telling you, I put my first set of work orders in. I want to say it was the week that Joyce was gone. On the days that Nicole wasn't here, I put my first set of work orders in, and I had I guess for lack of a better term, a mapping and an issue. So I had to handwrite a lot of those work orders and put them in at a later date because I couldn't get the system to work because that was literally the first time I had operated the system. So there was not a backup when Nicole wasn't here for Joyce, or at least someone that could put those in. So could I call back at a later date once they got entered? Yes. Can we give someone an individual number? Yes, to track those.
I think that will just take care of a lot of he said, she said stuff.
There's several ways to track one. There's several ways. You can track it by the address. You can track it by the crossroad. You can track it by their name. So she can track it by the date. So if she calls in and says, this is Brenda Cogner, I called in on 8/23, you can go into PubWorks and look on 8/23 and her name, and it'll pop right up. So there's several ways to track it. And I get it, the work order number is a great idea, but so she goes in online and does it because she wants to do it at night, like you had the issue at night, and you go in online and report it. It's not going to go in the system until the next day when Joyce physically goes in and takes it, but she can put in her name and, the crossroads. So that's all she has to do is when she gets off work, she can call in and say, I want to follow up with this and these two crossroads. And so she'll know where it's at because you guys asked the road crew to note it, where they're at with it. So then they can go back in and check. So there's multiple ways to follow up with it.
And we can pull up each one of those tickets and look what the resolution as far as whether asphalt patched those, what they did. The issue that we had on 1077, it sounds like the bridging issue is very similar, that it's not the top material that's the problem, it's the bottom. But I'm surmising that until I look at the ticket, because if we put coal patch over the top of it and we continue to have the issue with the rough surface, then the material below it's not holding, then the whole material is going to have to be pulled out.
Yeah, but if we talked about it 2 or 3 years ago and we haven't fixed it and stayed on top of it, that's my question, why we haven't.
I can't answer you as to what he did until I pull those tickets up, but I will pull those tickets up.
Sometimes it feels like I always call in and talk to Joyce. I don't do anything other than talk to her. And sometimes I feel like that it gets lost because I tell her all of my stuff and she writes it down. And then I don't know whether it goes to Sean or who it goes to. And then it goes to the foremans or what. But it seems like I don't ever get nothing done and everything. And I really think that the foremans from the districts ought to come in here and talk to you personally every time you have a meeting instead of because as well as I do that I'm not going to take and repeat everything just exactly the way you did. And he's not going to repeat everything exactly the way the next person does. So they need to be there because they're the ones that's out there supposed to be doing the work and having the guys do the work. So they need to come in and talk to you instead of going down this long range of people. I mean, go get it done at the beginning and then see if that won't help it. The way, I mean, it just, I don't know, but I'm not happy at all. When that semi about wiped out my 2 kids, I came in court. And you know what the county cop told me? He says, well, he says, the farmers are trying to get their grain out before this storm hits. And I said, his damn truck of grain isn't worth my 2 lives of my kids. And he said that they couldn't give a ticket because there wasn't anybody there to see it. There wasn't a highway, or there wasn't a police officer there to see it. But I want something done. See what's.
Okay, somebody does run that stoplight out there, read the tag, and then they're taking it after that.
Do we have anybody else for public comment? We got to get it moving along, so we got to try to keep it at 5 minutes, please. No, you're fine. It's okay. Is there any more public comment? Nobody?
I mean, 7 o'clock on the agenda,
Right.
Devlin Road. And I think you were gonna have something, or you were gonna talk to Miami County, or someone was going.
I reached out to the commissioner up at Miami County, which is over that area, and he
Never
told
heard
me-
anything?
Huh?
What did you
He
say?
told me that he can't guarantee that if
Well,
we
of course not,
do
because
ours.
it was supposed to be done 10 years ago. And so they don't trust Linn County to get their
Just
part
telling
finished.
you what he told me. He told me that
Okay, well,
that's what he said. He
Okay,
said, I
and-
can't guarantee it because we'll have to go back to our commissioners.
okay, I think it'll be done if we get ours done.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go back to last week. Mr. West said that he gave us the price of $500 and something thousand, which I thought was outlandish. I agree. It was a high. I didn't think it would ever cost that much. I couldn't understand why you didn't have bids for that. And he said it was just that they do all the work here within the county. And he did say he bumped it up for unknown cost or unknown things, that he bumped it up. So we don't know how much bumping up was
We
done.
did we tried to reach out for bids and we didn't get anybody to bid on it.
So anyway, I just want to go way back. Okay, not to 10 years ago. I'm going to do a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I sent a letter to the economic development person, Jessica, and asked her for the chip and seal on the Devlin Road. She said she didn't really answer me. And I might have said something to you, Jim, I'm not sure. But anyway, she didn't answer me. So I kind of thought, well, maybe, she'll get back with me. And maybe there weren't any grants out there because I was requesting a grant. And so I was up here one day for something else. I was getting ready to leave, and she caught me. She pulled me aside, and she said, Renee, I think we can get it. I said, you mean the grant for Devlin Road? She said, yes. And I said, well, is there something you need from me? She said, no. And she said, I'll get back with you. Didn't hear a word for probably several weeks. And I read in the paper that there was a grant given to east of 7 Highway, to road work east of 7 Highway. And I questioned her about it. I mean, that just burst my bubble, really. And I asked her about it. And she said, well, that grant didn't pertain to your road. It pertained to this other road. So we're back to a grant. I'm not giving up on this because I think it's really important for the safety and health of the northwest side of Linn County. So there was a grant by the state, and it expired. It expired this fall, just not too long ago. And we probably could have gotten that grant, but I don't know if you would have approved it. It was called a cost share program. And it's construction, and it's need health and safety. It could be also for economic.
and you pay a portion of that. It's only for construction, and you pay a portion of it. And I'm going to hand this out to you because I'm coming back in the spring if this is offered in the spring. Now, I don't know if it will be, but it might be. And I know when you said last week that it was not practical. Well, no, it's not practical because all of you do not live on the northwest side of Linn County. Okay, now I didn't know if you meant it's not practical for the cost, which I agree, the cost was terrible. I agree that. I just didn't think that the cost would come over 500 something thousand. Actually over what chip and seal would cost on the pre-work. So anyway, my neighbor looked this up and gave it to me, and he said, I think we could possibly do this. We bypassed the fall grant, but maybe we can go into the spring grant. So what I'm asking you is don't table this, but take it up possibly this next spring where there will possibly be a grant available. And this is a reimbursement. I think this one is a reimbursement grant. And I think the county only pays like 15% of the cost. So that's a pretty good deal if we can get it. But please don't use it for some other road. This is for Devlin Road. If indeed we can get this, I really appreciate it. That's all I have to say. You don't have any more to say on Devlin Road. It's kind of just out there. I don't want you to table it though. Come on up here. Come on up here and talk.
But we got if somebody has a heart attack or anything, they're gonna stop and they're gonna sit there and wait at least 10 to 15 minutes on that train. To my understanding, the train goes by every 30 minutes in that particular spot that we're talking about. Devlin Road is probably, I would say, approximately maybe 3 to 4 miles west of that train track, and it goes straight up. And Miami County has already probably paved down Indianapolis, I would say 3 miles, and they rebuilt some bridges down there where it's still gravel because they had the intention to chip and seal the whole way, to Linn County, and Linn County was supposed to meet them. And Linn County never did it, so.
But we've been working on this. Yeah, we've been working on this for, myself on the grant, trying to get a grant a year and a half ago. And it just kind of went nowhere. And she never got back with me on any other grant. And I know now she's gone. I mean, you don't have an economic developer here now. I don't know if you'll be getting one soon, but
We're looking into that job.
You are looking for, okay. But, so what do you think about, are you looking at it at all? What I just handed you?
I am.
It's lying there.
I mean, it's a pretty good deal. Danny,
Yeah,
did you look at what I just gave you?
I see it.
Please take in consideration of the health and safety of everyone in the Linn County area. Even though it might not be your district, it is very important for the health and safety of everyone in the county. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Renee.
All right, looks like we have Randy, you needed 10 minutes for non-elected.
And Sean needed 10.
10. Sean.
10.
And okay. I'll make a motion that we go into executive session with 10 minutes non-elected with Randy and then 10 more minutes with Sean, non-elected, for a total of 20 minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. What time is it? We'll be back at 7:30. We had no action from executive, from executive session. Let's see, now we are going to go into a executive session for personnel for interviews. One for the economic development and one for the
Operations director.
operation director of road and bridge. So what do you guys think? 15 minutes apiece? Over 30 minutes?
I would say
I would
so.
say that'd be good. Start and see what happens and go 30 and then
We can extend if we need to.
Okay, so I make a motion that we go into executive session for personnel for an interview for economic development for 15 and operations director of road and bridge for 15. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll be back at 8:04. Oh, hey, you guys, hold on one second, Jim. Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim. Do you guys mind if Allie does sit in here since she's gonna be taking my spot, taking over? It's kind of, everything's gonna be transitioning here in the next few months. You guys mind if she sits in on the interviews? Is she just gonna sit and listen and you good with that, Allie? Do you wanna do that?
Yeah.
The question of that would be, she's not elected at this point.
So Jim had said it on executive
I
session.
put it on the limit where I was.
Okay. I mean,
I didn't until it was official at the.
You're right, after I was elected, the last election, you're right.
So
That's
do
probably.
we need to wait?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
That would be right, after I was.
Yeah. Me too.
What do I hit?
executive session, it's on open meeting. Just the next one down there.
I'll make a motion that we extend our non-personnel interview executive session for 15 more minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are going to extend our interview executive session for 5 more minutes, returning at 8:25.
Seconded.
Motion been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We had no action from executive session from the interviews. Let's see anything else on the agenda. There's one thing I want to discuss. Again, I go back to the Linn County Journal. They put out an opinion piece about what I was talking about a lawyer last week. I want to make it very clear that the lawyer that I was stating did not represent me in any way, shape, or form. I don't even know the guy. I barely know his name. And quite frankly, I'm sick of their damn articles. Here I am. I'm Googling lawyers in close Johnson County and calling them and asking if they come down here and represent us. So Roger Sims, please put that in an article. Thank you. That's all I want to say. Had nothing to do with me. I am trying to get somebody here for legal advice for Linn County. Had nothing to do with me.
One other thing I'd like to talk about too, as far as our ads, and David and I talked about this, and I know you put it in there because, you know, you're advertising, but there's other advertising that's going out there. Don't we have a website? And didn't we buy something to
send out
to
the
actually put
notification system?
notifications out to people, and we spent pretty good money on.
We did.
Why don't we use that? Why don't everybody use that, David? Or are we?
Oh, on the site,
Yes.
20 people signed up for it apparently on the one that notifications go out on.
So the people aren't using it. They haven't.
So we need to figure a way to get it out there. I mean, is that something that went during election time? We can put in, we can give out flyers during
Do we need
election.
do we need to communicate better to people to get that out there, or quit using it? Because if only going to have 20 people, well, we're spending quite a bit of money on that, right?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know how many people are signed up.
Okay.
But I agree with you.
You know, we need to do one or the other. If we're using this, we need to be paying for it. If not, we don't need to be paying for that and then use the ads. I don't see that we need to be using both, I guess is what I'm saying.
Can we make flyers and put in every department or every office in Linn County, and each time an individual comes in, we put it there so they can take a flyer so they know about it?
Signing up for the
For the notification thing.
I mean, we can.
Could we
like
let
your
it at the
elections.
treasurer's office where everybody comes in for tags or anything, or your offices, and just scatter them around to see? Because it was a few $1,000s we spent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If that's something that you can scan like a QR code or something, and is it as easy as that?
We could ask mapping to make a QR code.
I mean, don't you think that would be, I mean,
And
I don't know.
see if we can get more people, because it's not that we're putting ads in the paper, and if we have this, we're spending money twice, I guess is what I'm saying. If this program isn't what we need, let's do away with it.
I mean, I think people come in for a building permit. I mean, anytime we're sending a flyer or a QR code or something with them and get it out there. Or do away with it. Yeah. Jason, you got any?
That's all I have.
I don't have anything.
All right. With that, I will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion adjourned. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sean, do you want these them or them invoices?
Hey, Jim.